I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about not necessarily myself, but my parents. Nurturing the nerdy child is really a very simple idea. It's what happens when someone from a very remote part of the planet gets interested in technology. Now, to give you an idea about how remote this part of the planet actually is, what you're looking at here is the west coast of Tasmania. So this is almost exactly the other side of the world. So you know when someone actually says if you start digging you'll land in China? You won't. This is where you will go. Now, this is where I grew up. Now, 30 years ago, oh my God, 35 years ago, back in the 80s, Granville Harbour was a very small place. So this is Granville Harbour today, and where I grew up is actually that house right there. Now, this is a little fishing village, permanent population of 10. Now, that included my mother, my father, me, and my two sisters. Okay? So Granville Harbour was a very small place. And Granville Harbour, this is today, and today this is, well, sorry, it's a little while ago, but today this is a place which has a lovely paved road, and it has power poles, and it has a telephone booth. But in 1985, it had none of those. And that boat right there, S30, Al Rebecca, that's the boat that I earned a living on. So, my mother and father didn't come from very fortunate backgrounds. They, tough lives, did it hard. And whenever we went to the big city, which is Hobart, Hobart is a town of about 200,000 people, and it's 5 hours drive away. And my mother would always do something very, very special for us. Because as you can see here, there's not a lot of technology in this town where I grew up. But my mother did something very, very silly. She took me to see this. Has anyone, whoops. No, okay, that's my mum, that's my dad, that's me and 3 of my children and my lovely wife. She took me to see this. Oh yeah, they're very patient people. They've got to deal with me. Has anyone ever seen this movie? A few of us? Does anyone know the difference between a nerd and a geek? Yes? So geeks like Star Trek, nerds Star Wars. So nurturing the nerdy child is all about the silly mistake that my mother made, which was to go and take me to see this movie when it came out, and I was about 6 years old. And at that point, I was really, really happy living in our small fishing village with a permanent population of 10, with no power, no telephone, no TV, and if you wanted to go to the bathroom, it was all the way down the back of the garden in a place that Aussies call a long drop. Now, if you don't know what a long drop is, just imagine digging a big hole in the ground, putting a shed over the top of it, and a round hole. So I've gone from being a really happy little child, playing in the bush, by the beach, crayfishing with my father, and then all of a sudden, this thing. So my parents were absolutely amazing with what happened over the next few years. After I saw Star Wars, my Lego that I had, I stopped building cars and I started building spaceships. And this was before Lego actually came out with anything that looked like an X-Wing fighter or the Millennium Falcon. And, Warren Elsmore does a fantastic job with all of the stuff that he builds, but I built some really cool stuff in very multicoloured red, yellow, blue, white Legos. So there were multicoloured X-Wing fighters and all that sort of really cool stuff. The next mistake that my mother made, of course, was in 1983, she bought me a computer. Now, remember, we don't have power. Okay. So what I actually did, I'd go out fishing with my father. He would give me $1 a crayfish. So for every crayfish we caught, I'd earn $1. And then when we went into town, I would buy gasoline. And then we would use that to go into the generator, and then I could use my computer. Hey. And 35 years later, here I am on stage at Lotus Fair, still playing with computers and talking about nerdy people. That's me.